All right, guys, thanks for joining us here on Guardian Safe and Lock's YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about, I guess, why it's important to remove master pins when rekeying a lock, and why not to make that rookie mistake. Because when you have newly trained techs going out in the field, you may have taught them how to rekey, but have you taught them why it's important to look for master pins and remove those master pins? So I'm going to show you a little bit about why that is important. So let's dig in a little bit. I've got a cylinder here. It works off this key. There is some master pins in the top of the cylinder. So what master pins are, let's start with that just in case you're not in the trade. When you have, say you have a 3 cut in a key, well, there's a corresponding pin that matches that depth in this key. There's a pin that matches the depth in the key. Now, in master key systems, you have multiple keys working one lock. So the key is you have to stack pins in order so that all the different combinations work, so that all the different keys that need to work that cylinder work. There's math involved in doing that. So when you leave master pins in, you're leaving other possibilities, because you may key it up to this cut and only this key is supposed to work. But if there's master key pins in top, depending on what pins are in there, will depend on what other alternative keys could also open that lock just besides this one. So I'm going to go ahead and open this cylinder up here and remove the master pins real quick. So this is just a mortise cylinder when I grabbed off the shelf. So now, whenever you're removing master pins, first thing you want to do is, take the cylinder, the plug out, and remove all the master pins with, the tweezers. Now there are some tools that help with that, like this tool right here. This is the KeyNex master pin removal tool. This will make your life way easier, maybe, or maybe not. If you want to check it out, how it works, we have a video link up above for our Guardian Approved channel where we do a product review on this, and you can see this in action. For now, we're going to use the traditional way, the way I do it every day with my tweezers. So you take this, turn it there. I got the pins that correspond to my key are all in here. The other ones that are for other possibilities are up in the top of the chamber here. So I'm going to come in here and just remove all the extra master pins. So I'm in the first 3 chambers. There it is, one right there. There it goes, if you heard it. A couple of them fell actually, but okay, so there's a couple master pins there. Master pins are out. So the only possibility for this cylinder is this exact cuts on this key, which are a 553145. Okay, so that's the only key that should work this lock. Now, let's say there's some master pins up in the top of this. Let's say there was I'm not going to go in depth to how this works. I'm just going to stick to the subject here because there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and put some master pins in a couple chambers. I'm going to put one in. I'm going to put a 2 master pin in the first chamber, a 2 master pin in the second chamber, and then a 2 in the third, right? Which basically means not only will a 5 work as the first, you could have this exact same key, but the first number could be a 7 and it'll still work. You could have this exact same key and the second key could be the second cut could be a 7 and it'll still work because there's master pins. You could have a number 2 master pin in the third chamber and it'll still work because I have a number 2 master pin in the third chamber. If you don't know, and these are all up in here, these are multiple different possibilities that you're leaving on the table. You're securing your customer's door and you're leaving more than one possibility to get in that lock. So I just added 2 pins in the first 3 chambers, right? I'm just gonna pop it back in. So if that's true, then that means this cut here, that means I added a 2 on top of these first 3 chambers. So that means, without going into detail how this works, I'm just gonna pretend like you know what I'm talking about. That means a 7 would work on the first number, a 7 could work in the second number, and a 5 could work in the third number, as well as the numbers that's on here. I've created more than just 3 other possibilities. I don't know how the math works on it, but I've probably created at least another 10 or 12 possibilities, or maybe even more, based off just putting in those 3 extra pins. Now, it's highly unlikely, but you're leaving extra potential, you're leaving potential issues unresolved by doing that, and you're risking your customer safety. So, for instance, this is I'm going to need to get an SC4 key real quick, because I don't have an SC4 key, I only have an SC1. This is a 4-cut key. So I'll need to get that, but I'm going to cut the cuts in here that correspond to this and show you. All right, so I got my SC4 keys here. This usually I would cut it with this punch. This punch machine is not working correctly, and we're gonna have to send it to get repaired, since they don't like to sell you replacement parts and let you fix it yourself. So that's a negative about this machine if you ever have one. So I'm gonna have to go cut on the front of my HPC machine. I'm going to show you that if you look here, you have a 553-145. Well, I'm going to cut a 753-145, and then I'm going to cut a 573-145, and then I can even cut a 555-145. And I'll show you that all 3 of those keys will now work this lock as well, just by throwing those extra pins in. And there's even more possibilities. I can change 2 of them and only 1 of them, or change all 3 of them, or change just 1 of them, and it opens up a bunch of possibilities. That's the whole point behind this, is you got to eliminate those possibilities by removing the master pins. So right now, I'm going to go cut this exact key, except for I'm going to change on each of those 3 keys that I cut. I'm going to change one of the numbers in each of them to the pins that I put in there, and I'm going to show you how many other keys work this lock now. Okay, so I went ahead and here's our original key. 553-145, which I keyed the cylinder directly to that. All I did was add a 2-pin in the first chamber, second chamber, and the third chamber, which means it'll work off 2 cuts deeper in the first, second, and third chamber, or all 3 at the same time, or any combination of them. So there's a lot of different combinations I've opened up just by leaving those 3 master pins in there. So what I did is I did 1 key. Let's find out which one's which here real quick. I'll put them side by side. I should be able to identify them. This one, second cut is deeper. This one, the first cut is deeper. This one, the third cut is deeper. So I basically went with a 553-145. Then I just changed the first one from a 5 to a 7, which should be this key. Yep, see? I haven't tried this yet, so I'm hoping this works. I know it works, I'm just hoping my keys are cut right. So all I did is change the first one to a 7, still works. All I did is change the second one of this one from a 5 to a 7, and I left everything else the same. And this one should work also. Yep. And then, on the last one, I just made the third cut deeper. I took it from a 3 to a 5, so now it's 555 instead of 553. You can see all the first 3 cuts are 555 now instead of 553. And this key should work also. There you go. So, not only does this key work it now, these 3 keys work it, and I could probably make about another 5 other possibilities. I don't know how to figure that out, but about 5 other possibilities. So by me leaving those 3 pins in there, I've probably created like an additional 10 to 15 different changes somewhere in there between all that. I can write it all out if I wanted to, but you get my point. So all I did is leave those 2 master pins in there. And just to make sure, so there's no funny business, let me just go in here and I'm going to remove the master pins from just those 3 chambers. Which, if I stick this in here, my original key, there's no master pins in there because that's my original key. So I should have 3 number 2 pins that fall out. There's number 1. Here's number 2. And here is number 3. See? That's all I did. So just by having those little 3 pins in there and not taking those out, I left many different possibilities. Now, say I did that on a 3-story building that has 300 locks. Every single lock has different keys. Every single lock has different master pins left in that cylinder. So I've just created thousands of extra keys that work their building. And me as a professional leaving that in there, that's not me acting professional. And that's also not taking my customer security, not taking it serious. So anyway, it's very important to remove master pins when rekeying locks. Like I said, we have a video on how to use this tool, which is a master pin removal tool. So you don't have to have that muscle memory with the tweezers like I just did. You can just put this tool in there and it does it for you. Maybe it doesn't. Check it out in the review, in the product review. Anyway, so hopefully you get my point here. It's very important to remove master pins. If I put this back in right now, watch here. I removed the master pins just to prove there's no funny business for people who aren't in the trade. That one works. Now these 3 keys will not work because I took those master pins out. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. And doesn't work. Killed all those possibilities just by taking those pins out. So, anyway, if you're in the trade, hopefully you know this. Hopefully you haven't been rekeying your locks. Hopefully you're either new to the trade. If you haven't heard of this, hopefully you're new to the trade because this is something that you should be told and should be taught. And it's not very often that there's master pins in homes, but there sometimes are. So even on homes, you want to check because you're only going to have to remove master pins from locks that have been master keyed, right? So sometimes they master key these neighborhoods and they leave master pins in there. So you want to go back and remove those, whether it's commercial or residential, whether it's a quick set, Schlage, Sargent, Porter Russellman, any keyway. They all have master pins if they've been master keyed, and you need to remove those pins. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this gave you some more valuable information. We're trying to put out content that is useful. So leave some comments below if you have any other ideas for other videos. We appreciate that. And don't forget, we're on all the social media platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Please subscribe, like, follow, all of the above. We appreciate the support. Thanks for tuning in.